So welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about basically the future after COVID. And this is a topic that I thought I was the first one to kind of think up, but I've seen it sort of all around the internet in the past 1, 2, or 3 days. I think that it's important to note that as we jump into this conversation, we're really only getting started with the extent of what's going to go on with COVID. This is a time where I think people feel free to think about the future, but the truth is we don't know exactly how this is going to go, how long this is going to go, and what's going to come out on the other side. So what is most important is safety at this point. Safety and taking care of your loved ones, checking in with your loved ones, and just being a support to your community as you can, and being careful yourself. So with that said, there are major market disruptions going on. Everyone that we have on this call is an entrepreneur in their own right. And I want us to talk today about just kind of what's going on in our lives and how we see that extending forward into the future. So today we have Martin Dasku joining us. Martin Dasku is the founder of Studenomics.com, finance expert blogger. I jumbled up those words there, but Martin is an expert in many fields, particularly in the gig economy and thinking about money. We have Bethany, it's been a couple years, Halbreich?
I don't even know how to pronounce my own last name, something like that. Halbreich.
Bethany's been a resident at TED.com, the speaking platform. She's really started probably the most organizations out of all of us. She's going to talk first about Jupe, a group that's doing a lot of important work, so I'll hand over to her in a second. She's also worked with, founded Paint the World, a 501c3 as I understand it, and Incipy.co, which is her own personal design firm, again, as I understand it. Ryan Liu has started companies. He currently works for I checked Vumble out the other day, just wondering what's still going on there. I checked, now he's working with the Washington Post. It's been a while since I've caught up with Ryan, so I'm looking forward to kind of hearing where the years have taken you. But in any case, those are our speakers for today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And to kick things off, I'm going to ask Bethany to please talk to the group about the important work that you are doing with Jupe.
So a couple of weeks ago when this insane time that we're living in right now started really ramping up, I was becoming restless. It's not my norm to sit back and watch things unfold. I really need to be doing what I can to move good work forward, or else I just can't sleep. So some really good people that I knew, a multidisciplinary team, were working on, have been working on a solution for the last year or so on a low-cost modular housing solution that they actually a few weeks ago, because of what's going on in the world, decided to pivot into a solution for COVID-19. So I'm running partnerships and doing logistics and basically helping out wherever I can with this. But basically what we've been doing after speaking with a ton of doctors, people in medicine, people in general that are really putting their lives on the line right now, we realized that the biggest need, aside from masks, of course, is really around hospital beds. So right now, major cities are, of course, already experiencing overcapacity. And pretty soon, depending on the way the timing will work out, rural America is going to be experiencing the same thing, which is kind of scary, very scary. So basically, Jupe, we've been designing and building these rapidly deployable modular rest and recovery isolation units for doctors and patients, and mobile ICUs. It'll be the world's first totally off-grid mobile ICU unit. And we are prototyping them right now in Southern California, in Redondo Beach. And we'll have 24 of them produced within the next few weeks, and then every month thereafter we'll be able to hopefully get hundreds and thousands of these units out because they're affordable. The way that we're designing them right now, we'll be able to pack 24 of them onto a truck bed. So we've got really incredible brands involved that are jumping in and adding their expertise as well. And we're just trying to make this all happen. So doctors don't have to, they have somewhere to go outside the hospital. They don't have to go home and potentially infect their families. And people who are have kind of low-grade symptoms won't need to be in the ICU with others that are in worse condition. They'll be able to be in our care units and then the mobile ICU. So anyway, that was just a little summary.
Yeah, anyway, very important stuff. How can people support you at this point?
So much. Well, unfortunately, the demand for these units is very high. So we are really looking for brands that are interested in becoming involved in a major way. So we're working with some great mattress sheet companies, Muji, Molecule, which does air purification. They had 95% accuracy in being able to remove any virus in the air, which is great.
Wow.
But any company that you are connected to, any brand that does any sort of home good item that can really make the space feel comfortable and not. We don't want these units to feel like they're right outside of a hospital, because doctors will probably be situated in them for quite some time. So anything that could make a space feel like home. It's jupe.com, JUPE.com. And if you also any hospital that you're connected to that you know of that has an immediate need for these things, or you see reaching capacity sometime in the next month and a half, please let us know so we could try to get these units to them.
Indeed. Well, I mean, with my limited platform, I'm happy to put the word out there, and I'm happy to. And I wish you guys the best of luck, because we're about to jump into a different kind of conversation. But you're saving lives. So that's the real important stuff that's going on. Now let's kind of dive into the content of today, and I'm going to direct this first question towards Martin. Martin, you are a man of many involvements, and I followed your career as you jumped from different career fields. Talk to me a bit about how this disruption, tell me about what was going on in your life and how all of that has stopped, been changed. Now.
All right, so I run the blog Studionomics.com. I've been doing that for 12 years now. So long story short, I show young people how to make sense of money. Because, planning your weekends is difficult enough. Personal finance should be easy. So over the years, I've looked into different income sources. I ended up getting into side hustles because budgeting is boring. Like, how much can you talk about budgeting, right? So I got into side hustles and making more money. And there's pros and cons to being a dabbler. There's a lot of cons to being a dabbler, but the pro is that at least you got multiple income streams. So one of the things that I was dabbling in, what are the odds? I went all in, was Airbnb experiences. I don't know if people have heard of this, but Airbnb experiences are the Airbnb app. It's pretty much like you're a tour guide on the Airbnb app. You can do anything you want. So I ended up starting a coffee tour business. I showed people different coffee shops, and it turned into a real business. Like I wrote about it, once again, for the blog. I see Bethany's got some coffee. I wrote about it for the blog, ours on wine, and then it took off. So I was like, why don't I go all the way with this? Right? So then I ended up spending 6 months. You guys are going to have a good laugh here. I spent 6 months doing experiences, writing about experiences, writing a book, creating a course. And then I finally spoke to my publisher. I contacted Amazon. I got everything set up for March 17th. Do you guys know what happened on March 17th? The world shut down. Mm-hmm. Not to laugh, obviously, it's serious. But Airbnb experiences shut down. Everything went into lockdown. So I had to pretty much stop that entire thing. So it was really eye-opening because you can devote all your time and all your energy to one project and it just shuts down. So the first week was obviously a mess. It hit me really hard. I was down on myself, but pivot, and I've realized there's different kinds of opportunities financially now in times of crisis. And yeah, so I had to pretty much put the experiences on hold, and I obviously I didn't feel it was appropriate to be selling a book or trying to sell a course during such times. But on the flip side, this opportunity has given me time to work on the back end of things. So, because what Airbnb does now is you can apply to host an experience, but you just obviously can't host it. So I've actually applied to host multiple different coffee tours, and I've used this time to build up the back end and build up more articles. I had to obviously pivot my whole online strategy on my blog because people don't care anymore about first dates or saving money. They just need to survive right now. So I've kind of had to pivot and change my entire structure of what I write about for now, for the time being.
We'll get back to you and learn more about that. I'd like to now switch over to Ryan Liu. Ryan, you have been on the pulse of how youth is using media for as long as I've known you, and I'm not surprised to see that you've gotten into work with the Washington Post in specific. The interesting part of the reason I brought you onto this conversation is I've always known you as someone who knows how young people work with media, and then you've joined on with Washington Post, which, I mean, the bad press is that this is a dying industry. People aren't buying the newspaper anymore. People aren't subscribing necessarily online. You got to put up a paywall. It's a really difficult time and place to be. So thinking about your industry, the news, media at large, talk to me about your company's efforts to remain profitable and relevant that were in place and how you see that changing kind of going forward.
Yeah. As long as you've known me, I've definitely been media focused and looking to be at that pulse. At the Washington Post, we're definitely focused on that as well. And mission is to get people the information they need and the truth that they deserve to, make these decisions in their life about, their health, their families, and especially in such an important time. We've even made efforts to make content free, which is a bit counterintuitive to that monetization that you mentioned. Ultimately, the newspaper and the Post as an organization is there to tell the truth, and I'm happy to be a part of that. My focus at the Post is on the audio and video content, which actually is a little bit different than the strategies of just the articles themselves. So on site, we obviously have many users coming to read our content, view our articles, and the videos and audio that supports that. But what I was so interested in learning more about was how they reach users off platform. So on sources like YouTube or Spotify and Apple Music and Apple Podcasts, and how we distribute that content outbound. And actually, most of that content is free to access. It's, through the regular channels that we as young internet users all, are accustomed to. So on Twitter or on Facebook or, now we have a TikTok channel that is helping people get exposed to these, new ideas, the information that the Post provides, and what we're really about. So, it's been an interesting time. We as an organization have all gone remote, which changes our workflow. We're so used to, being in the newsroom and, having 12 monitors up and all the different video streams that are happening. And, there's definitely adaptation that has had to happen due to that. But I will just share that the Post has had an explosion of engagement in this past month with people trying to find the information that will help them make decisions in their life, like how to approach things financially, what decisions are being made around the world to protect people's safety, and when to take initiatives to stay indoors versus having the flexibility to go out and get essential needs. All information is being flung back and forth, and there's so much of it that being a part of a reputable, editorial organization like the Post has been eye-opening to see how much of that daily information flow needs to get distilled and brought to users in a way that they can make decisions for their safety and their betterment.
I heard someone on NPR the other day saying that now that basically, we found ourselves in this very trying time, people are realizing the utility and necessity and wanting to support traditional media more than they have in the past. It's like, when things just sort of, your reality determines how you treat people and treat things. And for so long, it seemed like it wasn't necessary. Why listen to a newspaper over Trevor Noah or your favorite blogger, for your favorite YouTuber? But now, things have, when pushed up against the wall, it's really traditional media that's come through. And that's where people can go and people feel safe. So it's really important work you guys are doing. And in fact, I spoke with a teacher who had been nominated for Washington Post Teacher of the Year, I think last year. And she now works for a New York City charter school. She said that her greatest, and we're switching into another question here, her greatest struggle was regarding access to technology. And this is something I want to ask everyone about. Martin, I know things are a little bit different up there in Canada politically, but I want to ask about rights and what rights it seems like are, we talked about the Post is essential. What is being revealed as a right, as something that in this modern society, everybody deserves access to? Let me see if there's anything else I want to say here. I'd like to start by giving this question to, starting off with Bethany, and then kind of opening up the floor.
Well, I think when we talk about rights, the most realistic way to think about it sometimes is, there's two ways you can think about it. It's our desires, what we feel is just in the world, what our opinion is towards what is just in the world, and then what our politics say is just in the world. And I think around that, that usually has to do with benefit to one's own country and that sort of thing. And when you think about it in terms of rights with regards to technology and data and that sort of thing, with education moving online, it's not in our country's benefit to restrict learning in any way, in my opinion. It's not in our country's benefit to restrict access to knowledge. So I think it's consoling to think about it that way. I think that we're going to see a restructuring of, how our money is spent from a governmental level. Obviously, with regards to rights, we're going to have to, I think budgets always change after a time of crises, right? This is a very interesting time because we're going to see our priorities as a country shifting quite tremendously and new entities coming about, stuff like that. So anyway, that's my view. I think it's a consoling way to look at it, that, it's in our country's benefit for its citizens to have a right to more knowledge and data, for learning and for growth during a time like this when so many people are losing their jobs and need other options. Indeed.
Things are a little bit different on the other side of the northern border, Martin. But I'd like to ask you, kind of, we're attached to the political dialogue here. What are people saying up there? What's kind of like the evolving consensus on what we thought was fundamental before and what now we're realizing? Yeah, we all need this.
Well, yeah, it's actually very different here. We have provinces and we have a prime minister, not a president. But one thing that's changing is the right to access of sensitive and I guess what used to be confidential information. What's happening today is a big controversy because the Canadian government didn't want to release all the numbers and figures regarding this COVID-19 and actual health stats. And in Ontario, our premier decided to actually reveal and give us a full picture because the media can control the narrative and the government can hide information. But the premier, he's like a governor, I guess. He decided to share information that was not supposed to be shared with us. And as citizens, people felt the right that they should know what the actual situation is and not the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, but what actually is happening. So that was very controversial. And we got the numbers today, and it's not looking good, So we exercised our right to get the information, but now it's like, what do we do with this? And, unfortunately, it's going to be a rough few months, if not longer, for us in Canada.
And Ryan, I would like to take this question to you now.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a complicated one coming from a newspaper. So, I have a duty to make sure that information is accessed and the truth is revealed. At the same time, it's a business, right? Like, it costs money to produce as reporters and an editorial team, video cameras and covering everything from, overseas information to what's happening here at home. So, from a personal standpoint, and this is my own personal belief, I believe information should be free to access and, as much as we can provide in this time, it should be accessible. And the Post has taken steps to do that, and we've opened up a whole bunch of our content to be viewed by anyone to make sure that they can get that information access to them. But in a like environment where this disease could last for months, like Martin had mentioned, like what happens to your business when you have these considerations, right? It costs money to produce and to have people paid for these jobs, but you're not charging for that content. So then how are you getting a return to be able to translate into pay? And so we're getting into a sticky space when this is a prolonged, environment that we're all experiencing. And if I have clear answers, it's really like my own personal beliefs. As much as I think that things should be free for everyone, at the same time, there are other considerations that are way beyond my understanding that influence how things are driven. And we have subscription business, which is vital to the success of the organization for me to continue to work. So I think the answers aren't as clear as we'd all want them to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we all have to kind of understand for ourselves and really reflect on the individual situations and the individual organizations that are being impacted by this. That everything from, an event planner, like my fiance is an event planner, and that has a whole different type of impact on her and her organization, right? Like events, they legally can't happen in the way that they're supposed to. So what implications does that lead to? And what about the vendors that are providing services for those events? There's a rippling cascade of things that are happening with our just political environment, our daily environments, the businesses that we all have come to rely on. It's pretty wild how global and pervasive this has become. So
it seems like normalcy has been blown up, and it can't come back. It's gone. Because the Washington Post, finance-wise, I don't know how they were doing. I pray that an organization like that can survive, but the reality is that they might not, any company, depending on how you were doing before, if you were taking sound financial advice, like from Martin, then you'd be doing okay now. Martin, I hope you're doing okay. Not everyone takes their own advice. My girlfriend reminds me all the time. But so, normalcy is gone. And I wanted just an interesting kind of question. Ryan, do you recall net neutrality and how that was a big thing a year ago?
Yeah.
And it seems like we did not adopt net neutrality. And I'd love to open this question up to everyone, but like, how would we find ourselves, just off the top of my head, but would we have found ourselves in a different situation today had we adopted net neutrality and that basically from the ground up had kind of, I mean, it was a year ago. So all those changes you think would have been implemented. And if I recall correctly, my understanding isn't perfect on net neutrality, but there was going to be a lot of segmentation of what you could access in terms of what information you paid for and what you could access. So would we be in different shoes today, do you think, had we gone, that route?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, again, like there are ripple effects with this. Like I think that we would have seen more ripple effects in the way that impacts people's lives. Like if you can only access certain sites on the internet or like literally hit those domains, like what does that do to the spread of information and how people congregate on the web? Like if only certain countries or certain people could access certain bits of information. I mean, we already do see some of this split with the way China, manages their internet and information spread. So, I think that that's an example of something that looks a bit different because of the different rules and regulations that their information ecosystem is bound to. So, it's hard to say, honestly.
Yeah. You with the grilling, the real grill questions. Does anyone else want to kind of chime in on net neutrality? I did not plan to bring up net neutrality, but like that it's crazy how like we make these decisions in the moment that do have ripple effects forever. I often think what would have happened had we brought in, instead of George Bush, I guess it was Al Gore, who was like, I mean, I was a kid, I don't remember much about the guy, but I remember how climate change forward he was. So what if back then we had gone with someone who was like, hey, climate change is the #1 issue? How is today different just based on that one decision? And net neutrality is just another one of those. So if anyone has a strong opinion on net neutrality and how things would have changed, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, we can definitely move on. All right. The crowd has spoken. Let's move on to our next question. Okay, so actually we got a question from the audience here, and I'll open this one up. If you look at how fast media has changed just from the internet existing, what do you think is going to be the biggest change in tech from COVID? And, biggest can just be one that you are feeling already in your life and you say, hey, this has changed now that COVID has occurred. We'd love to hear an insight from your own, what you got going on.
So I'll take this. I think, can you hear me?
Yeah, yep. Coming through.
So I think that as the world went online, a lot of jobs are going digital, but then there's still people that have to work in offices and such. And we're really seeing which meetings could have been done over Skype right now. So, because a lot of times we've all been to meetings or situations or gone into the bank or something as small as like paying a deposit. You have to drive to the banquet hall, or like buying tickets at the door, like things such like that. Or, they could all be gone. They could all be out the window. Now we're seeing that like colleges are offering courses online, and nothing's really changed. It's like people are still zoning out during lectures. A lot of education's gone online. A lot of work is like a lot of people that I know that work like in an office, and they felt that they were told they had to work in an office. Now it's like nothing's changed. They're doing the exact same jobs on their laptop and on their couches. So I think there's going to be a lot of positive changes in that direction. Negative changes will be that, companies are going to realize they don't need a lot of people, right? Because we're seeing who's really essential and who we need. So that, unfortunately, that could be a big hit for a lot of people relying on, if technology could replace a lot of jobs moving forward, even more than it already has.
Indeed.
I think this is a really interesting time for education as well, because going to school every day could be perceived as the physical aspect of going to school every day could be perceived as a distraction, right? Like the commute there, there's dynamics with peers and things like that, and And moving everything online forces a focus on academics, and then also a focus on finding intrinsic motivation to move through the academics, you know. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this affects. I mean, the way that we learn alone in a self-directed way is very different than the way that a teacher might assume is best we learn, or the way that a teacher might be instructed to instruct, right? Because unfortunately there are so many guidelines and rules around that schools experience and teachers experience. Not a lot of creativity in that. So now we have to get creative. Parents are getting so creative in the way that they are homeschooling their kids. You know, just think about science experiments. Think about just the way that we motivate in general. The way that we've had to motivate ourselves to do things that were motivated by our schedules before. Like, we have to leave at a certain time every day. We have to get to the subway at a certain time, get to work at a certain time. Now we don't have that anymore. So we have to direct our own lives in a way that was never asked of us before. It's just such interesting shifts going on. And that, with the net neutrality topic, made me think, you know, we need to be a little bit more careful now, because things are online that weren't online before. We're collaborating in ways that we weren't collaborating before. You know, we're all of a sudden signing up for platforms that we didn't necessarily find a use for before. And now our data is data that wouldn't be there. Is there now, and it's online, you know. So much to think about, and so much that's changing as a result of this time.
To me, we're going to be the ones who are in charge of what comes out of education next. For example, how long was each of your commutes to your job when you had a physical place to go?
I was about 10, 15 minutes. So I was actually on the shorter side of commute. So I can't complain too much, but it's even shorter now. So.
Bethany?
Well, I've always worked remotely. My commutes have been self-inflicted, like to the gym or to a coffee shop, you know.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, I need to get out of the house now, or else be staring at my computer until 3 a.m.
And Martin, how about you?
Self-inflicted.
Like Bethany said, so a lot of people are seeing what it's like to actually. So, like in the past, we all said we wanted more time and more freedom, and now we got that time, but it's not the time we needed. We needed that structure, or we needed a system. So I've always actually worked from home, or aside from the coffee tours, those were at the coffee shop. Yeah, so I've always worked from home, but I've always gone to coffee shops. I've always had that weird freedom in the sense that I can wake up and go anywhere. Now it's like I have to actually work at home, and people would always laugh at me when I said I worked at home and I said it wasn't easy, and they'd be like, "Yeah, shut up, it's easy." But everyone's seeing how annoying it can actually be. Like, it's tough to focus at home. Like, there's so many distractions, you know. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm not gonna lie, my sleep schedule's been a mess lately because, you know, instead of like doing my work first, I end up watching Ozark season 3 first, and then I do my work.
Yeah.
So the commute hasn't changed, but the structure has taken a hit. And the beauty about coffee shops is that I can at least walk into the coffee shop. I'm like, okay, I kind of want to be here, but I don't really want to be here, so I'm gonna work fast and get out of here. I got to work from home, so I got to create that structure. And the toughest thing in the world is to create self-discipline and structure for yourself, which a lot of people are experiencing now.
Yeah.
Finding that intrinsic motivation that we weren't necessarily forced to find before.
Yeah, even workouts and everything. We're on our own now. Like, we got no training partners. We got no coworkers. We're on our own. We got to see what we can do.
Yeah.
So bringing this back to education, my point is that we have chosen no commute. Ryan's the only one with a real commute, and it's 15 minutes. I have no commute. I feel like everyone's kind of joined our world with no commute because that's how our generation prefers it. And that's definitely how the younger generation prefers it. So now it's like the whole structure of school got blown up, and the new ideas that are, coming up to the top are our ideas. So I had a question on education here. I'll just bring it up now. This is our world. We are people creating for ourselves and for the next generation. And I'll start with Bethany. Bethany, given your experience with traveling high school, and I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit more about that, and as well as teaching financial literacy, how do you think education changes?
So I'll explain a little bit about that traveling high school first. I ran the on-site operations of the world's first and only traveling boarding school for a little while, and it was just an incredible experience because we had 60 kids from, I think it was 30, representing 30 different countries. We had 5 kids from Bhutan, a few from Germany, like they were from all over the place. And that was amazing for me to see because, the way we learn around the world is just so different in the way that we take in information. So that school was the core of it had to be very techy because we had no location. The kids had to go through a series of like in the interview process. The interview process was for admission to the school was very much geared around are these students well versed in mixed media online, able to understand all of these apps and virtual bookshelves and learning platforms, things like that. So I think that school felt a little bit ahead of its time at the time when I was there, but it's just really interesting to feel now that will be the norm. It will. The platform that we were creating, and actually our CTO of that school, one of the co-founders, created a platform to house all of the apps. And it was a Think Global School. I think Think Global School obviously has the IP to that, but it was an app to house all of the apps and the platforms that were available for us to enhance the learning. And I could just tell you, I know he is selling that like crazy now. He's doing very well. There are a lot of schools and universities that are purchasing that
suite of apps. They're buying a suite of apps.
They're buying the app that basically will give their school the capacity to go online. It's called Headbrush. He branded it. But anyway, yeah, they're doing really well now.
Ryan or Martin, do you guys want to jump in on this question?
Yeah, education is changing not only at like a structured level, but even on a daily level. Before COVID was ever a thing, I have little cousins who know how to operate an iPhone before they can even, say stuff. They are browsing YouTube, and so it's crazy how much this technology is influencing the way we learn, which absolutely fascinates me. I think that will continue to evolve over time. The way we're interacting right now wasn't possible, 20 years ago when we were kids. Like, we were playing with big brick phones or flip phones, and now we can get on a call with someone around the world on 5G and have it be clear as day. So it's just amazing to me how much things have evolved and how that influences the way we operate and the way we work and the way we learn. It's amazing.
I feel like education is a dinosaur and COVID-19 is the comet, and the dinosaurs are gone. So whatever comes next is not a dinosaur, whatever it is. Martin, I'm sorry for cutting you off there.
Oh, no, that's fine. So my key thing here is I think that the main way that education will change is how we learn and from who we learn from. Because I went to school for business. I started in 2005. I started my blog 2008. So I started taking business class, I guess digital media, online business classes near the end of my run. And they were introducing us to this thing called eBay. And I'm like, wow, this is so behind. It was 10 years behind. 2008, 2009, talking about eBay like it's new. It's embarrassing, right? That does a disservice to the students. So I think so. So now we're going to decide who we learn from. So the beauty about education now is you can choose an influencer. I hate that word. You can choose an industry leader or a coach, instructor. And it can be anybody. It can be somebody on Instagram that you look up to. It could be somebody on YouTube. For example, I like learning languages, and I tried doing Spanish classes, and they're just so boring. You learn the dog walks beside the cat. Okay, great. It's not real. It's not practical. So I started doing YouTube tutorials. This one lady, Butterfly Spanish, she does real. She just has a whiteboard like this, and she just gives real lessons that you can actually apply. Unlike a textbook where you sit in a classroom for 4 months, you might learn to say can I get 2 copies to go, please? That's useless. So now you can choose who your instructors are, and you can choose how you learn. When you're in school, you just you got the lecture, you try to pay attention, and then you go home and you cram last minute, and that's the most ineffective system. So now you decide how. So I'm learning Spanish, for example, by I have a Duolingo. I use apps on my phone. So instead of going on a dating app or some silly app, I'm on an app doing Spanish lessons. I'm learning the language. And then you can go on Instagram, which traditionally people used to waste time. You can get on there and be like, you know what? I'm going to practice. I'm going to call my friend in Spain and talk to them in Spanish. Or I'm going to listen to Spanish videos only. That's just one example. My brother is learning guitar. Instead of getting a traditional instructor, he's just doing lessons on online, Fender.com and watching YouTube videos. And so there's no barrier to entry now for who can become an instructor. So if you're a really good guitar player and you really love teaching people, the market will decide, right? If you publish your videos on YouTube, you try to give people tutorials, instructionals. We're going to decide whether you're good or not, right? As opposed to getting a job in a college and say they would just hire some guy that's got a degree in guitar or a grade. Which is, I'm sure, it's very respectable. I'm not hating on that guy with a degree in guitar industry. But I don't know if I can learn from that guy. I don't want to sign up for a course that's 4 months long and I might not even actually learn anything. So yeah, it comes down to how we learn and from who we learn from, in my opinion.
Do you think that this technology is, do you think that technology can support more sophisticated knowledges? Let's talk about PhD programs, technical education. Someone asked about technical education. How about technical education where you must operate equipment? Does technology grow up to take care of that too?
Okay, well, you gotta there's obviously some jobs where you want a guy or girl or a person that went to university for 20 years to get that job. It's you don't want a brain surgeon who learned on YouTube, obviously. So a lot of if you're learning accounting or surgery or medicine or a lot of practical things, yeah, you do need the schooling. But a lot of other things can be learned, hands-on, practically speaking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we're also going to have to. I just saw an ad the other day for a hologram company to support conference planners, which is really cool. But I forget what the company was called, but just imagine how conferences will evolve if we're able to sit on our couch in our living room and see a conference speaker, a hologram. We'll be able to buy a little disc thing that looks like what's that robot called that vacuums your floor? Anyway, that is in the think of that. Yeah, and then we just press a button, and then the speaker comes up and moves around our living room as giving his keynote. Anyway, if I saw an ad for that the other day, and that exists somewhere out there, then I imagine that we'll be able to do the same thing with even something, a vocation like welding or things that we might have thought would require the tool. What if that hologram actually was welding machine? And what if or what if the hologram was, like if we're going into medicine or something and we have to practice dissecting and like, I don't know. but what if we could actually learn faster via holograms and have more access to all that? Anyway, just wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're gonna. I mean, hopefully, I keep thinking, what if a second event were to strike? Like, for example, I used to live in Seattle. They're always waiting for this big earthquake that's supposed to strike. Well, what if it chose tomorrow to hit? That would turn this into a mega disaster. So hopefully, what we're looking at right now, staying indoors till June, is what we're really looking at, and that's it. But like, I mean, if we had to stay inside, and every time we went outside it was gloves and masks, then the business would grow up to suit that. So like thinking about holograms or virtual reality at home, yeah, right. Mine's just right over there. My mom just sent me 10 in the mail, and I was like, "Oh, thank you so much, Mom." And they forgot to take out the receipt. I think my dad might be listening to the stream. He's not going to be happy to hear this. Nice, $60, $60 for 10 masks. But anyways, that's just me complaining.
You can turn around and flip them now, right? So now you can make $60 each.
Yeah, someone's gonna get me for price gouging for sure. It's gonna be like, yeah, the guy with the tutoring company, get him. Okay, so I want to do one more audience question, and then I'll bring it to a final question, and we'll close this conversation. And Ryan, this one is for you, but also kind of for everyone, as with the grilling questions. So the question is trust in media has been an issue. Is trust in media ever an issue discussed in Washington Post? Pew Research polls show trust in the media has dropped consistently over the last 2 decades. It is at an all-time low. I don't see a question there, but yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah. I mean, it's understood and well deserved in not having that trust, because there's ways to manipulate content that we've never seen before, like fiction or photo manipulation, all these things that are seen legit from first glance, but in reality are actually not. The Post as a mission is to tell the truth and to combat that fake, information spread and bring people back to the information that's real, which I'm glad to be a part of, and that's a mission that I'd like to support on my own. But I mean, yeah, like it's tough when you see something that looks real that is actually not. How do you distinguish? And the lines get really blurry. So, I'm again, like, that's part of my own personal mission, to help people get the truth, and I hope that we can continue to develop ways to make sure that that happens and that detection is clear, and when the information is true, it's known, and when it's fake, it's also known. So, yeah, definitely an evolution in all of that, trusted information and what can be created. It's evolving thought, and something we'll have to keep an eye on, for sure.
Definitely. All right, so let's get to our last question here. Okay, so I would like everyone, let's talk about our worlds post-COVID. We're living in a time that people had been calling a technological revolution. I mean, I think it was Martin talking about kids, or Martin talking about kids using YouTube before they can speak, and operating phones. So with services growing into the monolithic entities that they seem to be turning into, and other than MySpace, they show up and they hold that ground and just get bigger and bigger. I think mostly it seems that way. So Uber and Airbnb are 2 companies that have made sellable commodities out of personal things, specifically the sharing of personal things. Sharing has suddenly become dangerous. Sharing is scary. Things like the arcade down the street from me, that's gone. Bethany, Paint the World sought to make a community thing out of something where nothing was before. So talking about sharing, I guess my question isn't, what change do you want to see out of the void left by coronavirus?
There is so much here. So, I think it's very interesting that communities there are some communities that have actually strengthened during this time. Like, I was just on a Zoom call with 250 people the other day in place of a conference that would have, and then we did, I didn't know that Zoom had this capability, but we were able to actually break out into, we did like little breakout sessions that had themes. Anyway, so in my experience through this, and again, it's just my own, so I have no idea what everyone else is experiencing, but I've been shocked to see how communities have strengthened during this time, and I think a lot about how in the future, who knows, 10 or 20 years down the line, knowledge won't be power anymore, as much as creativity will be, because when you think about the fact that we'll probably be able to transfer knowledge on chips, things like that. I mean, there already exists a computer that can basically read our mind with scary amount of accuracy. So when you think about the way that technology is advancing, I actually think that a time like this might benefit that path of creativity becoming power and community. I mean, we're adopting more and more tools for collaboration that we weren't comfortable with before, and we're collaborating more easily than we were before in a very results-driven way. So I'm excited to see how that all unfolds.
Totally, yeah. And Brian and Martin, would you guys like to jump in on this question? We're talking about sharing. We're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to sharing, the one thing that's changed a lot is the sharing of information. Actually, sorry, don't check. Yeah, so sharing of, because now with the problem, the good and the bad, like we got a lot of positives with technology and social media and feeling connected. We also got a lot of negative. Now anybody can create fake news, and anybody can, like. This is sad to say, but like my parents are like immigrants, and sometimes like they go online and they share like the stupid memes, like conspiracy theories. It's like, and not just them, like people in general. Like, so like, you can say what you want about CNN or Fox News, but like John's blog.cr, like come on, did you really have to share that article from John's blog? So I'm seeing a lot of people sharing false information on Facebook, and this is a bigger discussion and something that luckily I'm not in charge of. But we have to figure out how to shut down like the fake news and the sharing of straight up false information. Like, we don't even know what's the reason that the media trust is down is we don't even know what's real anymore. Like somebody can publish something and then people think the media published it. Now they don't trust the media. So I really do hope that we do have a better system for sharing information, and like this whole COVID-19 thing has brought out all the conspiracy theories. I see people on Facebook arguing and. This one guy's been like every day he goes on 6 different rants while the government's out to get him. And it's like I really do hope that we filter our information better moving forward, and we have a better system for getting the right information to the right people instead of like people like my parents. I may not know what's going on. They're sharing fake news and we like tell them and like hopefully. Long story short, hopefully we stop the fake news world.
Martin, before we switch over to Ryan, I wanted to ask you, what about Uber, Airbnb? Are these companies on the other side of this disruption?
What do you want to know? What do you mean?
I mean, Airbnb is sharing your home with someone. I feel like Airbnb is going to take a huge hit. Uber is sharing your car with someone. Like, what do you think happens?
So I thought about this question long and hard, and it really depends. Like I hate to say this, but it depends on how long this lasts. If this goes away by summertime, I expect a slow hesitation, and then I expect by the fall things to go back to normal because people will want to travel again. Like people will want to do things again. But if this goes on for a year, then like these technologies are going to have to pivot. So Uber, for example, will probably have to just do like food delivery and alcohol delivery. Yeah. And who's going to want to share a ride? Like, you know what I mean? That's the last thing. Like, they've actually stopped pools. Like previously, to save money, I would just take a pool. Like, I would just get in a ride with 3 different people and spend like $5 to get downtown or get down the street. But now they're going to have to, if this goes on, they're going to be totally disrupted. They have to pivot. And Airbnb, what they're trying to do is they're trying to do like online experiences. But obviously, yes, that's not the same, and it's just we're going to see how long this plays out for. Because if it goes longer than we thought it would, and unfortunately, they might have to even shut down.
And that would be sad for that to die out, but that's possible.
But I mean, if travel's stopped altogether, what's the point of having, even hotels, Airbnb? What's the point of anything? We can't travel anywhere anymore.
Yeah. And some of the lesser companies like Booking.com, hotels, Expedia, who might not be up. Expedia is probably doing pretty well, but a lot of these companies might not have the resources to make it through whatever the stretch is. Which
yeah, I mean, I hope it goes away by the summer, but it doesn't look like it will. I'm not an expert on this, so I don't want to spread fake news, but yeah, if this goes on, I do worry. Well, I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups where I talk with, so I've written about driving Uber and using Airbnb. So yeah, of course it's hitting me because these are things I've promoted for so many years, and now they're gone. So everyone's kind of waiting and seeing because there's a lot of people that became dependent on it. People bought houses just for Airbnb. People there's a tour guide that they took their business 100% on Airbnb experiences.
Okay.
So now everyone's just waiting to see what happens, and hopefully things go back to normal. If not, that could even destroy the tourism industry in general. If tourism's destroyed, that impacts more people than we could even imagine.
I'm worried. Go ahead, Bethany.
What you reminded me of is the exciting thing about all of this is that humans have historically always invented and created around times like this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unfortunately, the things that humans have invented that have been the most like mind-boggling things usually happen around a time of war because it's like a necessity, right? So we have to innovate and really make things happen in a much faster speed than we would normally because of this urgency that we have. And it's going to be interesting to see what we do around that as a society, but individually too, we have such power to pivot our own lives and our own missions, whatever we're into. But it's in our bones to create and innovate.
One thing I've been worried about is, just looking at how companies, think Walmart, Amazon, how they seem to grow up and eat up other things. Like, think about like a forest or something when you knock out a predator and something else comes up and, there's a whole lot of it all of a sudden. With so many small, it's like our business biodiversity is going to die off, but the big ones are going to eat up the territory. So, that's kind of fear-mongering, but I'm a bit worried that, like my tutoring company, Wisant, is going to be like, okay, invest now. We're going to get all the online, attention we can get. We're going to be the best platform. And then, my company, we can't really compete anymore. But okay. Ryan, is this something you wanted to, I'm sorry that it took so long for me to get over to you.
No worries.
We still there, Ryan?
Yeah.
I'm here. I think both sides of those perspectives of it impacting people and having entire industries being flipped and having to adapt is very real. And I also think that there's opportunity that's bred out of it with this digital age and all of these new ways of learning. We mentioned some of them earlier, like being able to get information on YouTube or even create your own business online. Like there's two sides of a coin, and it's really about understanding what your focus is, and as entrepreneurs, all of us, we've found opportunity in the changing of times and the changing of technologies and the evolution of new ideas, and I think that is what that learning is really about, is finding what that means to you and using the environment and the resources around you to create something that others value and benefit from. So, to everyone's point, I think that's an opportunity here, and because things are changing, we're kind of forced into it, and I think we'll all come out the better for it.
I think so.
So do you guys want to, if anyone has any final comments, that'd be a great time for it. We're over an hour, so I'd like to end the conversation here. Does anyone feel like they have one more thing they want to get off their chest on this topic?
Yeah, I do. I think it's important for anyone that ever wanted to start a business or a podcast or a YouTube channel. This is the time. Unfortunately, we got all the free time in the world. We came at a cost. That really sucks. But if you're not impacted by, of course, if you have COVID-19, if your parents have it, then obviously that's your first priority. If you're healthy and just bored at home, this is your time to create. Don't let this time go to waste. Like, what do they say? Isaac Newton wrote his manifesto or whatever during the London plague. That's not fake news. I saw that at Everett's biography or something a long time ago. But yeah, so this is your time to create. And I mean, if you can't get someone's attention when they're bored and sitting at home, you're not going to get it when they're, busy with the real life and back to work and stuff. So use this time wisely. Of course, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to stay up all night, watching stupid shows, and you're going to eat a bag of chips. But don't let that become the new normal. Let that become just an anomaly. Let that, once in a while, yeah, you're up late, but try to stay on track and try to create.
Okay, well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. I feel like, we have 3 entrepreneurs in the room, 4, I guess. All of us have, started businesses, and anyone who's made it to this point is interested in business themselves. So I hope that you all found something useful in here. Of course, all these people are definitely available for contact. I think at this point, everyone's a lot more collaborative online. So feel free to reach out to myself or any of these speakers to talk more about these ideas. And thank you for joining us today.